Hello everyone, welcome to this amazing Improve Your Eyesight edition of Zoom that we're actually doing here today. And my name is Auchettl, and over the next hour or so, my intent is to do a number of things. And the most important thing I always believe I have to start with is to enable people to believe that it is possible to improve their eyesight and even get out of glasses. Because when I first started doing this over 20 years ago, I did not know that anyone else could do this. So one of the best things, I guess, that you've got is knowing that there is someone out there who has already done it. In actual fact, there's hundreds, if not thousands of people who have now actually physically improved their own eyesight. And so I guess the first thing I would like to look at is, why are we needing to wear glasses in the first place? And we're going to look at that today. We're going to give you the number one eye exercise to improve your own eyesight today. We're going to give you that. And we're going to see how you can get started for yourself to improve your own eyesight. So we're going to try to cover all that today in this short time. And I'm also going to allow just a little bit of time at the end for some Q&A. So if you've got your own specific eyesight questions, we're going to allow some time at the end for that to occur as well. And so that should be quite exciting as well. Just to let people know who I am, because some people don't know, what's my role in terms of eyesight. I actually come from a vision background and an educational background. So the educational background is I was a teacher, and in 1993, I actually managed to get out of glasses. And these were my glasses. I actually kept them as a memento. So you can see these really thick glasses that I wore, yeah. And that's what I wore all the time. And all those multifocals, so I had to look up and down and across and all like that. I started an experiment on myself to see if it was possible to get out of these, because I was told that my eyesight was not bad for someone in his mid-40s, and I was 32 at the time. So all I was trying to do was to stop my eyes getting worse. Now, what I managed to do is in 2 months, I managed to get out of those into a single lens. In other words, I was able to read without glasses within 2 months. Within 6 months, I passed a driver's license with 20/20 vision. So I just want you to know from the start that it is actually possible to do that. And that's even before all the new techniques that I've been developing over the last 20 years that in some cases have even sped things up. I've even had people who've improved their eyesight in less than 2 weeks and managed to, actually get a driver's license in under 2 weeks. And there's no hard and fast rule. So it's not like, well, the percentage are that these people do this or these people do that, because everyone is so individual. The first thing I always suggest to people, however, is we've got to start looking at why we've got these glasses and what can we do about it. Do we want to get out of them in the first place? And most people want to get out of them. The number one reason why people want to get out of glasses is because they're dirty. Like they're looking through bits of dirt and muck and everything like that through everywhere. And the other one that seems to come up for people is they just can't find their glasses. Where are they? What's going on? And they just can't even, see where they are. So what we're going to do today is to try to give you a starting point in this session about how you can actually improve your own physical eyesight. And so the other thing that comes at the back of that is it's not just about eye exercises. A lot of people see that any eyesight improvement course is about how many exercises can we do in an hour. And I always believe the more exercises I'll give you, the less likely you are to do them. So what I've done is come from an educational model. So a medical model would give you 25 exercises. They go home and do these. You may do them the first day, you may not, but by the third day, 90% of people don't do them. So what I've done is taken those exercises, turned them around, and how can we make them more fun for people to do? Because if you actually enjoy doing the exercises, you're more likely to do them again in the future. So that's the exciting part about this. Now, The number one exercise, and I want to start with this with you, the number one exercise that I did to get out of classes is called palming. And some of you may know this, some of you may not. And I have a slightly different bent on how to do palming. So we're actually going to start with that one with everyone. And palming is simply a matter of, and I'll show you first, and I'm going to do it twice. So once where I do it, show you, and once where everyone can do it together. So the first scenario is, I'm going to get you in a moment to rub your hands like this. You're going to cup them like you have a couple of eggs in your hands, and then place the palms of your hands over your closed eyes. And I'm just going to get you to breathe for about a minute. And then when I tell you to, you're going to drop your hands, and just with these two fingers, just touch the corners of your eyes like that. Drop your hands and then open your eyes. So as we do this together, what's going to be a really great activity is have a look around. If your issue is about looking into the distance, have a look into the distance. If the issue is looking up close, have a look at your keyboard or something up close so that you can see if there's a difference already. Because part of my intent is that someone on this call will actually have some improvement in their eyesight. And if you do, just type it in the text in the chat room. There's a little chat button down the bottom there you can plug in. So let's have a look at this together. So let's just rub our hands. So warm up, give them some energy, and then we're going to cup them like we've got a couple of eggs in, and we're going to go over our closed eyes like this. And we're just going to relax. And we're just going to allow ourselves to become aware. And just become aware of, do you see complete black or do you see colours? Is it warm? Is it tingly? Whatever else is going on. Whatever it is absolutely perfect. And then very slowly now, even just after that really short time, just allow your hands to drop, touch the corners of your eyes, allow your hands to drop, and then open your eyes again. Okay. That's the total. So to just have a show of hands, anyone, if you felt like there was some difference. That'd be an interesting one there. Yeah. So we're already getting people seeing some difference just in that one really quick exercise. And imagine if you do that every day. So that little slight improvement starts to increase, and starts to increase as well. So that's one of the things that you can do here, just to have a practical process of improving your eyesight. And that's sort of what I did. Is I went through and I did, I started just doing palming and sunning really, and a couple of really basic exercises, because I was pretty unsure about whether there was anything in this. And then after 2 months, when I got out of those reading glasses, I got more serious and I started looking at what else is there. And I looked at things like massage and acupuncture and meditation. And then I also started looking at what is going on with our eyesight in how we see. In other words, why is our eyesight deteriorating when at some point it wasn't? And I ended up doing a master's in education looking specifically at the detrimental effects computers have on our eyesight, because I knew that was a particular problem. So I spent all this time looking at how computers affect our eyesight, and more importantly, what we can do about it. And in doing that, I actually came up with a number of reasons why we actually wear glasses in the first place. And the number one reason that came up at the moment is use of computers. You know, we're all sitting here in front of our computer at the moment. And I'm not against computers. I think they're amazing. You know, we get to talk to people around the world here. However, computers themselves can sometimes, you know, affect our eyesight. And you must know that if you're just sitting in front of it. So palming, by the way, is one of the best exercises you can do in front of the computer. The other thing is just turning away every now and then and looking away, so that our eyesight's not just fixed at this particular screen all the time. The second thing that came up is this age factor. You know, I'm a certain age, therefore I need glasses. And in some ways, it's a really interesting process. There are now 85 to 90% of people over 45 who wear glasses. You know, That's just quite remarkable, isn't it? 85 to 90% of people over 45 now wear glasses. And yet no one's complaining about this. This figure is actually increasing. When I first started this in 1993 and started the research, in 97, I actually founded an organisation called Eyechttl to help other people improve their eyesight. And there were 50% of adults who wore glasses, even at that point. Within 10 years of starting the business, that number increased from 50% of just adults to 50% of the population. That includes kids and everything. And so the use of computers and things like that means that we're all subject to this sort of screen. People now have iPhones and tablets and things like that. I hopped on the train the other day and everyone's sitting there with a screen in front of them, for an hour on the way there. So all those sorts of changes are taking place. In terms of age, I've actually had people 72, 76 get completely out of glasses. And yes, eyesight is going to have an effect. Our age is going to have an effect on our eyesight as we get to a certain age. But we have to remember that everything is going to have an effect on ourselves. If I don't start exercising, start walking and running and doing like that, my legs as I get older aren't going to do what they used to do. So a lot of it is about exercising and utilising what we actually have already. So there's a lot of these myths out there about age and things like that, and even the idea that we have to wear glasses all the time. I was told, make sure you wear your glasses all the time or your eyesight will get worse. That was the medical model. And I actually did that, and every time I got my eyes checked, I actually got stronger glasses. So there was something there not working for me in terms of the model which said you must wear those or your eyes will get worse, and they actually got worse. So age can be a factor. There's these ideas about you have to wear your glasses all the time. I actually believe if you don't need to wear them, don't wear them. If you're driving and need to wear them to drive, then wear them for driving. But try and find times in your day where you don't need to wear your glasses. I used to wear them 24/7. I used to wake up, put them on, take them off at night, and that was it. The third thing that's really bumped up glasses sales and things like that has been the branding and marketing. And if you look at the branding, the key thing with branding has been this 12-year-old boy called Harry Potter who happened to wear glasses, and then all these kids are out there saying, I want to wear glasses because I want to look like Harry Potter. So the whole branding of the wearing glasses has changed substantially from what it used to be. And if you think about that, that was when I was a child, it was actually, you're really dorky and you're really silly if you actually end up wearing glasses. These days, it's sort of almost a situation which is, completely different. I've even known people who wear clear lenses in order to pertain to a certain image. It's really quite remarkable, but they're actually doing that. So in doing the Masters, I looked at all those sorts of things, and I actually classified exercises into passive, which is like palming, and active eye exercises. Active ones like stretching your eyes, lifting them up and down, and doing those sorts of things. And all I wanted to get across today is we just do the palming every day. I've had people get out of glasses just doing palming every day. It can be that beneficial. All right, I'm going to allow time very shortly to answer any specific questions. I do want to answer one that came up before the call that came up about, how come we have glasses going on? What's going on behind the eyes? Because when I passed the driver's license of 20/20 vision, I then became interested in what else is actually happening behind the eyes. And I started to look at what is it in life that we're also not looking at. And that's the interesting part when we really get into it. And there are two things that we need to look at here. The first is, why do we wear glasses in the first place? And what do our eyesight challenges actually mean about our life at the moment? So in answering the first one, why do we wear glasses in the first place? Go back and have a look at what was happening in your life. You know, and sometimes people say, oh, look, I need glasses because I was studying and I was doing extra work and things like that. And literally in the 20 years I've been doing this, very few people have come up as needing to wear glasses because they're studying or reading or doing those activities that we think are associated with, you know, eyes and deterioration of results. Now, the exception to that is people who are sitting in front of computer screens for, you know, 10 hours a day. Sometimes people sit in front of a computer screen, they're 10 hours a day typing, they go home, and what do? They watch television to relax, which really is just the same problem being exasperated throughout the whole day. So I always suggest to people, go back and have a think, not just about when you first got glasses, but go back about 6 months, 12 months before you got glasses and see what was happening in your life at that time. You know, what was it that triggered something in you that maybe you didn't want to look at? And it's a really interesting process, and I've had all sorts of scenarios where people have told me that they've had a grandparent die or a major tragedy, or even just shifting schools. You know, what's major for other people may or may not be major, you know, for you. So recognizing that anything that triggered it for you could be the shift in it. You know, changes in relationships, of how the relationships, whether it's family relationships, personal, intimate relationships, all can make a difference in how we actually see. So have a think about that, and certainly that might be something you might want to have a discussion with me about individually rather than in a group session such as this today. But it is really an important factor, and once you actually understand that, it is in many ways the key to actually getting out of glasses. The second thing is about, you know, what does the eyesight issues mean? You know, whether you need glasses for reading or do you need glasses for distance. And traditionally what actually happens, if you think about it, is when we're teenagers, and that's when most people need glasses for distance, when we're teenagers, it's about what's my life going to be look like in the future. In other words, we're worrying about, you know, am I going to be wherever I'm going to be by the time I'm 30 or 40 or 50 or whatever it is. And so for myself, I was in that category where I needed glasses to look into the distance. And then as people reach that sort of 45 to 50-year-old age group, they're starting to find out they have to put their arms out further and further to read the phone book or to read anything. And in that category, generally it's about how you're perceiving the past. You know, have you achieved what you thought you were going to achieve when you were a teenager? And then there are some people who actually have both, which was my case, where I actually, you know, perceived in the past and also in the future, and I was sort of lost somewhere in between both. So one of the things I often look at is what is the meaning behind those particular eye exercises as well. All right, and that can make sort of a huge difference as well. All right. So what we're going to do, just to continue, I just want to, there's a lot of information there, and I'm going to just allow people now a time to ask questions. So we're just going to unmute people, and people, any questions that you might like to ask. I think this might be, just have a bit of a break during this, and see if there's any specific questions that people might have.
Barry, Justin here, mate. How often should I do this? Like once an hour, or whenever I feel like it, or?
Is this the palming? I haven't actually got your picture up here, Justin.
Oh, sorry, mate. Yeah, how often do I do the eye exercise, the palming? Yeah.
Yeah. Look, the how often question is, you know, one of the biggest questions I get. How long should we do anything? My suggestion would be about 5 minutes a day to start with. If you did 5 minutes every day, it seems to be enough to support it. Now, 5 minutes for some people can sound like a long time, but if you're watching, even if you are watching TV, if you did your palming just during the ads in a 1 hour show, if he would actually end up doing something like 20 minutes of fun. So the other way of doing it that I often recommend is maybe doing a couple of minutes in the morning and a couple of minutes of the night, and then maybe a minute or so during the day. So that would be the ideal. I'm working with a client at the moment who's palming 3 or 4 times a day, and in 2 weeks she's had significant improvement in her eyesight. Now, it's almost like how long is a piece of string, because any palming is going to be better than not doing anything. And those people who are meditating, one of the things I often do is I might get some pillows and put them underneath my elbows like that, and I might really relax, and I might do palming for 15, 20 minutes while I'm doing meditation. So I also look for ways of how to do that, while I'm in a busy life as well. Okay?
Thanks, mate.
No worries. Any other questions? Michael, did I answer your question before about wearing glasses? Did that get fully answered for you?
Well, no. The real question is if you've forgotten what it could have been, how can you actually jog the memory and find out what it could have been?
Yeah. It's a really good question, because a lot of people will say, why did I need to wear glasses in the first place? And a lot of people say, look, I just don't know. And my suggestion is, normally I would say go to when you first got your first pair of glasses, when you first noticed that your eyesight was deteriorated. And eyesight just doesn't normally deteriorate overnight. It normally takes between 6 months and 2 years. I always suggest that we go back 12 months beforehand to start with. So go back 12 months before you actually got glasses, and to see what was actually going on there. And then once you've done that, just see what comes up for yourself. And most people will sit there and say, oh, no, nothing. Think about where you were, what was happening in your life, what was happening prior and post that. And most people are able to find that there was a significant event. You know yourself what it is?
Well, no, that's the point. You see, I can remember, because it was started when I was 7.
Right.
So, but I can remember the class that I was in when I was 6.
Yep.
I can remember school. I can remember home. I can remember everything about that. I can remember who the teacher was. I can remember who I was sitting next to. The class the year after, I can remember that. Okay. I can't remember anything about what was happening in that year.
Okay.
When I was 7. Other than going to the optician, I can completely clearly remember exactly going to the optician and having the eye test.
Okay.
That's the one thing I can remember.
As a young child, there are some slight differences that are going on there. Like most people, their eyesight would deteriorate probably as a teenager or in their mid-40s, early 50s sort of stuff. When people have eyesight issues as a young child, there are 2 factors. One is it could be an eyesight issue that you've had since birth and they've only just picked it up. You've managed to get away with it, if you like. The other issue that seems to come up a lot with children, and it's an interesting one, but a lot of children seem to surrogate for one of their parents. In other words, they're picking up all the emotional stuff that's going on for their parents. So I noticed that you're talking about what was happening with the classroom you and who you're sitting next to and things like that. I actually have a sense that's more to do for you in this particular case. Have a think about what was happening in your home life at that time.
Well, I think my home life was quite stable, but the only thing I can think of is that my parents were refugees from Germany. I was living in Africa, so that's where we were. And when I was born in 44, so when I was 7, that was 1951. Okay, so it was quite a long time ago. And the only thing I can think of is that was the first time that I saw what had happened in the concentration camps, in Hitler's concentration camps, and the horror of those camps. So that's kind of what I think it might have been.
Yeah, it might have been, yeah. Look, definitely. That's something to look at. Imagine as a young child get to see that. And that's all of a sudden is now going to be part of your entire history. So what I might do around that is you might want to do some work around that trauma really that came up as a young child.
What sort of work is that?
Well, you've got your own work that you're doing in terms of what you're doing, but it simply might be a process of writing down what you do remember and then just burning that, allowing that to go. Because it seems to have a play on you over your entire life. And literally I've had people when they've done that had some improvement in the physical eyesight straight away. So I would suggest you to write down, particularly the feelings, what's going on, what's the emotions going on when you actually found all of that. We won't have time to do all that today, but have a think about what the emotion around all of that was for you. Because,
so what you're basically confirming that some kind of emotional incident like that could have been connected with the eyesight.
Yeah.
There's a direct connection.
So often that when people figure exactly in on what the issue is, and it's something that we never get past. This is new territory. Something that we don't. You go to optometrists, they don't say what was happening to you when you were 5 or 6 or whatever. This is about looking at what are the blocks in our life, and people deal with these blocks differently. Some people get sore shoulders, get a sore back. Some people, their hearing starts to go because they just don't want to hear anything. Some people, their eyesight starts to go because they just don't want to see. Does that make sense to you?
Okay. Yeah, total sense. Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate
Any
it.
other questions?
So Barry, Justin again, so as a whole, what you're suggesting is that, emotional trauma could, trigger eyesight difficulties and sort of clearing or cleansing some of that, whatever that process is for an individual, can help with your eyesight in addition to the different exercises.
Definitely. Look, it's where I've had the success. There are, one of the things I actually did, I was the keynote speaker for the Natural World Vision Conference last year in LA. And I noticed a lot of them are working with eyesight exercises, and some of them are doing amazing work helping people with eyesight exercises. Where I've had, in some way, a different success, and it's probably different rather than better or worse, is I will look at what are the emotional stuff going on in people's lives. Not only looking at what was going on when they first got glasses, but also during their life now, because a lot of people will say, I used to wear glasses and I got a pair and they didn't change. And then all of a sudden 2 years ago, I had to get a stronger pair. And I'll say, well, what happened 2 years ago? Well, just 6 months before that. And they'll say to me something like, oh, well, that's when I separated or a major tragedy happened in their life. Okay. And it may even be that they lost their job or something like that, something that's really significant to them. So other people might go, oh, look, that's not even that much of a big deal, but for them emotionally, it's quite a trauma. And so I believe there's a huge area between our emotions and how we see. And what's really interesting about how we see, we seem to think because we get these glasses, which are sort of like this, and they say you need to wear these glasses in order to be able to see. All right? And we assume that that's the glasses that we need to be able to see with all the time. And the reality is, and most of you would probably know this, but the reality is that our eyesight actually changes throughout the day. So for most of us, our eyesight's probably the best in the morning when we wake up and we're a little bit fresh.
Morning.
We go through the day, and depending on what's happening, it will sort of vary up and down. And by the evening, they're probably, the most tired they are and a little bit worn out by the end of the day. And so one of the things I suggest to people is a lot of people go home and the way they rest is to say, oh, look, I've really had a busy day. I just want to read a book, watch TV, or hop on the computer. And in terms of taking care of our eyesight, they're probably the 3 toughest components that we're going to do on our eyes. So, my suggestion, if you're coming home and you're really tired, you know, I would actually just start by lying down doing 10 minutes of palming, just to bring your eyesight back up so that you can sort of deal with this sort of stuff. And one of the things I also found, I don't know if anyone here actually reads in bed, but if you're actually reading in bed, then that can also have a slightly detrimental effect on your eyesight, particularly if you're lying down reading sort of like this sort of stuff, and you're not sort of sitting up aligned in bed as well. So one of the things I often suggest to people, if you are going to read in bed, that you read sitting up. And the reason why I do that, I can show you that really quickly now, is if you just put your thumb out and about that distance, at 12 inches, 30 centimetres, depending on where you are in the world, and straight in front of you, and what I want you to do is look past your thumb. So look way past your thumb so that you can, as you look past your thumb, you should notice that it looks like there are two thumbs there. That's what it looks like. And if you look at your two thumbs, you might notice that one of them appears to be higher than the other. Now, if that's the case, all I need you to do is drop your ear down to your shoulder and then cross your other ear down to the other shoulder, and it should appear as if your two thumbs are jumping up and down like this. All right? Now, the ideal, if we're reading, the ideal would be is if those two thumbs, which are representing both our eyes looking at it, even appear level. That's going to put the least amount of strain onto our eyes. So when I'm looking like that and I'm looking into the distance and my thumbs are level, then that puts the least amount of stress on our eyesight. So if you are reading, you know, one of the things you can do is just put your thumb up to see whether even your posture is there sitting there square as well. You know, a really simple process that you can do there.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Barry, just a practical one, actually, for me anyway. When I had the cataract done, I felt that my eyesight was 100 times worse than it was before I had the cataract replaced. And one of the doctors eventually, because I was quite angry about it, because they kept telling me, because I felt like I still had a hole in my macula. This is what I felt. And one of the doctors suggested that it was my brain not sort of computing that I had a different lens in my eye or whatever. So I didn't know. I just thought it's got a little bit better than it was, than I felt. But I've had to really train myself, I think, so to try and see better, you know. So one eye is grey now and the other one's getting quite clear. But I still have spots in my eyes. But I do feel that's from the macular repair.
Yeah. And your question?
Sorry?
And your question is?
And the question is it, why does the brain, I suppose it's about the brain that I'm asking, more of a neurology question, I think, is why does that happen that you're sort of not, you know, how do you train your brain to actually see when the eye is actually, because they say I've got 95% vision in one eye, but of course the other eye is still the same, you know. So why doesn't your brain, why does it take so long?
Well, if you think about eyesight, and I guess, you know, I don't want to get too caught in the medical side because it's not my actual field here as well, but if you think about how we actually see, the way I was taught is that we would look at something, it would come through our eyes, it would cross somewhere at the middle of our brain, come back at the back of our head, and it would be an upside down image, and our brain turns it around, and that's how we see. Like that's like elementary year 10 science in how we see.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the interesting part is I actually believe that we see not just that way, but a whole way differently as well as that. And one of the things that's really interesting is people who are physically blind can walk around without bumping into everything all the time. They get that sort of sixth sense. And you can even try that yourself. You know, just walk around and get a feel, and you almost know if something's going to be there. So number one, I don't believe we're just seeing just with our eyesight.
No.
And the other interesting thing is when we allow that light through and it comes in and it hits the middle of the brain, there are 2 points there, which is the pituitary and pineal, that the light actually hits into. And when it hits that, it actually lights up the entire body. So in many ways, we're not just seeing with the back of our brain, but we're seeing with the entire body. And on top of that, there's also different points that we don't physically see. You know, they talk about a blind point over here somewhere that we don't see. But in reality, if we can map that, there's actually tiny little points that we may not see out of our eyes at any particular time. And our brain, if you like, colours it in. It sort of says, look, there shouldn't be a hole here, so we're going to colour that in so that matches down here. So one of the things we can do by relaxation techniques, meditation, etc., we can actually relax our brain and allow it to run a little bit smoother. Because quite often, you know, we're just running at such a hectic pace that everything's going at a really fast rate. You know, one of the areas I specialise in is educational kinesiology, which is looking at the left-right brain hemispheres, and most people would know about, you know, the difference between left and right brain. The interesting thing, the latest stuff that's coming out, is that no activity is left or right brain. Every activity requires both. You know, an artist has to stay within the frame. So everything crosses between the left and right brain. And so one of the things that might actually help you is any activity which is going to help cross between your left and your right brain. But that might be as simple as getting a ball and throwing it, and then catching it in this hand, throwing it and catching it in this hand. So it's actually crossing over. So you can retrain. Our brains are amazing things. It can get retrained so much. And these neural pathways here, these telephone wires, can actually find new ways.
And that makes sense to me, Barry. And Helen, I'm wondering, did you get any exercises from the doctor, or did they just put you in, do your eye and send you home?
Yeah.
No, I had to create all of this. The exercises they gave me, I think, were the one about the ruler, where you had to look up and down a ruler. And I think I did it 3 times and said, you know, this is ridiculous. And then started researching, you know, what can we do about it? So through me, it was really a process of trial and error. You know, I was the guinea pig before I did anything else. One of the other things I actually did was also to stop wearing my glasses all the time. So I started off in the morning when I got up, is not to wear them before I went to work. And then eventually I would increase, you know, times throughout the day where I didn't need to wear them. And I can remember just how excited I was. You know, I marked it in the calendar, the day I actually wore no glasses for an entire day. You know, it's quite remarkable. And you think about it, if you wear glasses all the time, not to wear them has changed my life, because my view of life, which, you know, glasses is almost like that, went like that. Okay. You know, in my case, it was quite remarkable. It's an added situation, because when I went from this to this, I didn't actually go for full peripheral vision. And I went back to the optometrist who tested me. He was quite excited about, you know, the progress I was making. And when I went back 2 weeks after I passed a driver's license with 20/20 vision, he actually tested my peripheral vision. And what we found is I didn't have any. I had no peripheral vision at this point at the time. 2 weeks later, I was operated on for a pituitary tumor sitting on my optic nerve. And they said, you shouldn't be able to see, you shouldn't be able to do anything. And I started talking about all the eye exercises I was doing. And despite that, you know, I'll still manage able to see 20/20. And so when the pituitary tumor turned up, I guess some of the stuff I was doing for eyesight was sort of okay in terms of just, you know, a bit trendy, I guess, at the time for me. It really then became a life-death scenario. And so the activities I learned, particularly around meditation and being still, became so much more important to me. And really, this is when I turned the eyesight program that I developed into more of a vision of life program, because I believe there is a connection between how we see and how we see life. And when we can work on the two together, everything changes. So it's not just about how to improve your own physical eyesight, which is great, but how can you improve your own vision of life? You know, how can you expand what your life actually looks like? And really over the last 20 years, that's what I've been developing through, you know, muscle testing, kinesiology, through a whole range of areas that I've really, you know, specialised in how do we expand our vision of life. One of the things I'm actually doing now is I recognise that a lot of people used to come and see me for a one-off session, you know, like come and give me some exercises, they go off, they may do them for a while, and habits sort of come in, you know, these habits, sabotages. The area of kinesiology I specialise in is actually called sabotage clearing, which is really looking at all those things like our belief systems and all of that. So people have all these wonderful intent of, okay, well, I'm going to do this. You know, I'm going to do palming every day. And yet I found the majority of people, after a few days or after a week, they start to wean off what they're actually doing. So one of the things we're actually going to study actually next week, is a 6-week program where we get together every week and go over it every week and keep getting new things, so that we can look at improving our physical eyesight over a 6-week period. And I'm so excited about this, and I absolutely know that this will work. If you did this for 6 weeks, you are creating a change in your habits so that you can see not only differently, but you can maintain this after the 6-week period. Because it takes normally between 3 and 6 weeks to change these habits. So what I'm going to do is set up a 6-week program for those people who are interested, and I'll be sending you the information on that shortly. But there'll be a 6-week program where you can go do this boot camp approach where we can improve our eyesight over a 6-week period. And I've seen the differences that make when you do it consistently, and I'm actually offering a 100% money back guarantee, because I know that people will have that improvement. Okay? Now the cost of that at the moment, I've got this as an introductory price, but I haven't used it on Zoom. So I've got it at $150, and I'm going to include a half-hour free session, which I value at $150 anyway. I charge $150 for half an hour, $250 for an hour, if anyone does want an individual session. But that would be $150 for a half-hour session, plus you get the 6-week program. Because I'm just committed to getting people to see the change for themselves. So if that's something that interests you, look, you know, send me a message. We'll send you the details, and you can hook yourself up for next week. But this can be a regular process to make a difference in not only how you see, but also how you see life. And I just think that it's just so important that we create these changes in what's actually going on. And for me, what happened is, after I passed a driver's license in 20/20 vision even, I still kept expanding what my eyesight and what my vision is like. You know, and that ranges from everything from probably being a little bit clearer on how I see myself, you know, in terms of emotionally, how I deal with other people. I'm certainly far less judgmental than I used to be at that age. It also deals with how I see life, you know, and expand my own possibilities. You know, I see the world as my stage at the moment. I don't believe in small local situations. You know, one of the reasons why we're doing this on Zoom is we've got people from at least 4 or 5 countries on the call, and I've got about 10 countries of people wanting to go through. So this is about making a difference on a larger scale. And I'm also working with a life mentoring group of people at the moment over a 6-month period. And some of them are on the call now, and we're actually looking at making changes in their life over 6 months that are actually based on frequency changes so that they can achieve whatever it is they're wanting to achieve in their life. And so the two for me become all wrapped up. You know, I've also created a board game called Conversation. And this board game is about, really ultimately about openness and unity, about how we connect to each other. And I believe that the last component, which I didn't put in the Masters of Education because it was like, still had to be quite an academic exercise. But the last component of why so many people are now wearing glasses is that we are just not connecting on a heart level with each other. We're connecting so superficially to each other that we're starting to wear glasses even to hide who we are. And that's quite a tough call, but it's actually how I see it. I see that as we wear glasses, we're actually hiding behind these things. And the analogy, I wrote an article one day on the analogy between Clark Kent and Superman. Clark Kent pretends he's a little bit, clumsy, not quite fully who he is, and then he takes off his glasses and he becomes this extraordinary person. And I think that analogy for our life is such a great one. All right, any other questions?
No.
I was just wondering how people went with the palming today in terms of any differences that people notice just in doing the palming itself today.
For me, it was long distance, sort of.
Sorry, Justin,
Yeah.
a bit louder.
Me, it's was for long distance, so I was seeing a bit more clarity in the fine leaves on the trees. Is what I kind of struggle with.
Yeah.
And when I'm at work, which is what I'm keen to try, is if I'm looking at a whiteboard in the one of the rooms or something that without my glasses I struggle to see it clearly. So that's for me what I would like to work on.
Okay. So you've got a specific thing to look at. One of the things you might notice if you look out the window there at the moment, not only should it be just a little bit clearer in terms of crisper and things like that, but one of the things that comes up, and you won't find this in any textbooks at the moment, is one of the advantages of palming, the colours seem to stand out brighter.
Yeah.
So if you have a look at the colours around, they just seem to be stronger for what they are as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I found
have a look at, there are greater benefits for that. And I've even done palming in a corporate setting where we've had a whole room of corporate people, and we've talked to them about palming. And as they've done this palming, they're sitting there going, oh, we're not too sure if there's anything in this. And as they've done palming, they've actually noticed that there's been a change. And not only a change in their physical eyesight, but the entire room seems to be relaxed a little bit more. So, all those extra benefits come in, and that relaxation component of palming, it's like a mini meditation in its own right. Comes into it. So, look, hopefully that's been a benefit to people today. As I said, this will be the start of a 6-week boot camp for those people who want to continue. Please, feel free to contact me if you want to be part of that. Hopefully you've got some benefit of today and some thoughts about today about your own eyesight, that you can start thinking about maybe why did you wear glasses in the first place. Maybe thinking about, what does your challenge, particularly challenge, mean? If it's in the distance, are you worried about the future? If it's reading up close, is it about, what's happened in the past? So they're going to be like little clues to indicate what's actually going on for you. All right. The exercises, the number one exercise I give people is called palming. There is other exercises, and get in touch with me. I'm happy to give you, other exercises. If you go to my website at auchettl.com, there'll be other exercises in there as well. But it's not about the volume of exercises you do. If you just did palming every day, I literally had a person who came and saw me as a kinesiology client. She had these emotional issues she wanted to look at. And one of the questions I asked her is, do you wear glasses? And she said, I used to, but I don't wear them anymore. And that sort of got me interested. And I said, well, how come? And she said, because I did your course 12 months ago and you talked about palming, and I just do palming every morning when I'm sitting on the toilet, and that's all I do. And she managed to get her glasses just doing that, by making a habit in her life as well. All right. Some of these programs I've done, I've got heaps of testimonials. My favourite was a friend in Canada who wrote to me. It was quite an interesting email. He said, Barry, I've got a problem. And he said he's he felt like his eyes, he was doing the exercises and he felt like his eyes were getting worse. So he went to the optometrist. And I went, oh, this doesn't sound really good. Anyway, when he went to the optometrist, the problem he had is his glasses were too strong for him. And the optometrist, who'd only given him glasses 2 weeks earlier. So he bought these glasses and then started doing exercises. And then what happened is that the optometrist said to him, you must have had laser surgery. Well, that was a really interesting one. The optometrist could not believe he could have done that just with exercises and said, you must have had laser surgery in the last 2 weeks, which was impossible because it just wouldn't happen that way. So, the benefits of this can be quite quick. All right. Now, for some of you who have got major eye issues, one of the things I often suggest is the first thing we've got to start is to stop our eyes deteriorating. So what can we do to stabilise our physical eyesight? Okay? And we're doing this, as I said, through an educational model. How can we stabilise our eyesight so they're not going down this treadmill and getting worse and worse? And then once we stabilise them, what can we do to start improving it? And my experience and my own intent when I started doing all of this over 20 years ago was just to stop my eyes getting worse than what they were. And there was this faint hope that within 2 years, if I could improve them, I would be happy. But the reality is, I actually, as I said, I improved my eyesight. Within 6 months, I was completely out of glasses. And I've had other people now do this. As I said, a 72-year-old is now able to drive for the first time without glasses. And the biggest benefit that I've seen with people was a comment where a lady said, for the first time in my life, I can look into the eyes of my beloved without glasses and see him. And that just really struck me, that was like such an emotional moment for this person. I hope today's been a benefit for you. There's been a lot there. I will do the replay. It may be something that you need to go over and digest all the information that's in there. But hopefully you found this a benefit today before you are. I really appreciate all the people that are on the call today. It's been really exciting. We've got about 50 people who have already asked for the replay, so we're going to make sure we get that up, probably put that up on YouTube or something like that so people can, lots of people can get to see that. Okay, any questions, last comments from anyone? How was today for people?
Thanks, Barry.
Thanks, Barry. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. It's been really great to work with everyone, and hopefully some of you will do the 6-week course and we can do this process together over a period of time. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Morning, mate. Morning, everyone.
Bye. Bye.